Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Afterlife Series on the Ultimate Enlightenment channel. In our premiere episode, we pulled back the heavy theological curtains of dogmatic religion to reveal a staggering truth, that the afterlife spoken of in our oldest sacred books is not a destination waiting for your physical heart to stop beating. We demonstrated that the true resurrection of the dead is a present-moment phenomenon, a radical, evolutionary awakening of your consciousness while you are still walking, breathing, and navigating this earthly landscape. We learned that the grave is not 6 feet under the dirt, but rather the low-vibrational, dense material state of the survival-driven human mind. But to fully comprehend how to escape this grave, to truly grasp how to break past the survival barriers of our reality and step into our divine inheritance, we must confront a deeper, far more ancient mystery. We must answer the ultimate question that has haunted philosophers, mystics, and theologians since the dawn of recorded time. What is a demon? To understand the nature of the demonic, we cannot rely on the sanitized, fearful interpretations of modern religious institutions. We cannot look at the cartoonish caricatures of horned red monsters dwelling in subterranean chambers of fire. Instead, we must look directly into the mirror of human nature itself. We must examine our origins, mapping out the hidden, split architecture of our very biology and spirit. When we search the oldest records left by humanity, the ancient cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia, the Sumerian epics, and the deeply esoteric layers of the Hebrew scriptures, a profound and consistent creation narrative emerges. These texts do not describe a magical, instantaneous creation out of nothing. Rather, they detail a highly calculated cosmic intervention. They tell us that the entities referred to as the Elohim in the Western biblical tradition, known as the Anunnaki within the older Sumerian star maps, descended to this planet and engaged in a profound genetic synthesis. They did not create a human being from scratch. Instead, they took a vessel that was already perfectly adapted to the harsh, dense physical laws of the earth, a primal terrestrial hominid, an advanced ape. This hominid was a masterpiece of earthly evolution, but it was governed entirely by the laws of the wild. It operated on pure animal instinct. Its brain was wired exclusively for survival, for hunting, mating, defending territory, and hoarding resources. It knew no guilt, no existential dread, and no higher moral virtue. It was a creature of pure physical nature, entirely bound to the lower frequencies of raw material existence. The ancient texts reveal that the Elohim took this savage creature and spliced its biological form with their own divine essence, their own high-frequency spiritual data, their consciousness, and their blood. In doing so, an extraordinary cosmic paradox was born. A wild, primal animal was suddenly, violently shocked into higher awareness. A savage creature of the earth was given the deep humility, the intellect, the self-reflection, and the creative power of the gods themselves. From this single, ancient act of cosmic engineering, human nature became an eternal, unyielding battlefield. We did not emerge as unified, peaceful beings. We were forged as a walking contradiction. By merging the terrestrial ape with the celestial architect, our creators ensured that human nature would forever be torn between two opposing sides, trapped in a constant state of internal friction. On one hand, we inherited the higher self. This is the divine spark infused by the Elohim, the seat of what African mystical philosophy calls Ubuntu. It is the profound, unshakable realization that our consciousness is interconnected, wrapped in a single garment of destiny. Ubuntu is the voice of the divine mind within us. It is our capacity for unconditional love, cosmic empathy, artistic creation, and self-sacrificing virtue. It is the part of you that remembers the stars, the part that seeks absolute truth, order, and harmony. It is the side of your being that looks out into the universe and recognizes its own divinity. But on the other hand, we carry the heavy, unyielding weight of the lower self. This is our physical heritage, the ancient biological operating system of the primal hominid. This lower nature does not understand cosmic alignment or spiritual nobility. It understands only survival. It is the voice of the ego, driven by fear, aggression, territorial paranoia, and dominance. It operates on a simple, ruthless code: consume, conquer, protect the self, and destroy anything that threatens your immediate physical security. It is the dense, heavy gravity of our physical biology pulling us backward, trying to keep our awareness firmly locked inside the bottom 3 energy centers of survival and base emotion. This is the dual inheritance of humanity. We are characters of a grand cosmic drama, walking bridges built between the dirt of the earth and the light of the heavens. Because of this, human life is defined by an ongoing internal friction. Every choice we make, every thought we think, and every emotion we broadcast into the matrix of reality is a direct reflection of this internal war. We are constantly choosing whether to feed the divine consciousness of the gods or surrender to the savage instincts of the beast. And it is precisely within the dark, unaligned shadow of this internal warfare that the true reality of the demon is born. To prove that this ancient conflict is not merely a metaphorical fable or a poetic abstraction, we must look directly at the cutting-edge frontiers of modern neuroscience. The divine architects did not just leave these clues in dusty cuneiform tablets. They hardwired this cosmic dualism directly into the literal physical architecture of the human brain. When we study the structural split of our biology, we discover that the human brain is completely severed into two distinct operational zones, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. These two halves do not merely process different information. They represent two entirely separate modes of existence, two distinct consciousnesses competing for total control over your life expression. The left hemisphere of the brain is the biological command center of the primal hominid. It is the unredeemed animal engine. Neuroscientists have confirmed that the left brain operates on linear, fragmenting, and highly analytical logic. It is hardwired specifically to handle physical survival within a hostile material environment. It looks at the world and immediately cuts it up into pieces, categorizing everything as an object to be used, controlled, mastered, or feared. This hemisphere governs speech, calculation, and egoic boundaries. It is obsessed with linear time, past and future, because survival requires constant calculation of previous threats and future resources. The left brain is the ultimate seat of the egoic lower self. It is selfish, aggressive, and highly territorial. It is the part of your biology that demands absolute control, operating on a closed loop of cold, mechanical survival logic. It sees nothing beyond the dense physical matrix. When a human being operates exclusively through their left hemisphere, they view other living things purely as tools for personal advancement or as competitors for food, sex, power, and space. It is entirely blind to spiritual unity, operating at the exact lower frequencies of the bottom, three centers of consciousness. In stark and beautiful contrast, the right hemisphere of the brain is the biological antenna for the higher self, the physical landing pad for the divine consciousness of the Elohim. The right brain does not see fragments. It sees the unbroken wholeness of reality. It operates on holistic, intuitive, and deeply creative frequencies. It does not think in linear words. It communicates through timeless symbols, deep archetypes, and profound emotional frequencies. The right hemisphere is the anatomical seat of Ubuntu. It is the part of your brain that effortlessly feels empathy, recognizes the interconnectedness of all living things, and experiences the sublime beauty of artistic creation. While the left brain is trapped in the illusions of time and separation, the right brain lives entirely in the absolute present moment, connected directly to the eternal stream of cosmic life force. It is the source of your spiritual genius, your altruism, and your capacity to transcend your immediate physical needs to touch the divine mind of the cosmos. This neurological split is the hard scientific proof of our dual inheritance. The left hemisphere keeps us safely tethered to the physical survival mechanics of the terrestrial ape, while the right hemisphere keeps us permanently wired into the cosmic intelligence of the gods. So how does all of this tie back to the demon? This profound neurological reality allows us to finally decode the deep esoteric allegories hidden inside the ancient Hebrew scriptures. When the sacred books describe the physical structure of the Jewish temple of God, they were never talking about a physical building made of mortar, wood, and stone located in a geographical city. The ancient masters were drawing an incredibly precise anatomical map of the human body itself. As the Apostle Paul openly declared in the Scriptures, "Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you?" When you study the structural layout of this mystical temple, you discover that it perfectly mirrors the physical and energetic anatomy of the human brain. The outer courts represent the lower, dense physical systems of survival, but the inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies, represents the hidden sanctuary within the cerebral architecture. Esoterically, the right side of the brain is the true dwelling place of the living God. It is the sacred chamber where the divine presence rests, completely insulated from the chaotic, survival-driven noise of the left hemisphere. The Ark was the precise location where the high priest would go to communicate directly with the voice of the Creator, where the divine glory, the Shekinah, would manifest as a brilliant, uncreated light. This is exactly what happens when an initiate activates the pineal gland through deep spiritual alignment and higher frequency cultivation. The pineal gland secretes melatonin and advanced dimethyltryptamine compounds, opening a literal multidimensional portal within the mind. It is the third eye, the eye of the soul, the precise biological mechanism that breaks you out of the 3D sensory matrix and floods your entire being with the brilliant, eternal light of higher cosmic consciousness. Now, with the flawless synthesis of neuroscience and ancient scripture fully established, we can finally strip away thousands of years of religious fear and clearly answer our primary question: what is a demon? To truly comprehend the nature of a demon, we must discard our previous simplified definitions and step into a much larger, more terrifying reality. A demon is not merely an internal psychological shadow or a simple metaphor for your lower self. When we strip away all religious theater and look at the absolute mechanics of cosmic physics, we find a precise, mathematical definition. A demon is any force, entity, frequency, or organism that actively works to disrupt, hijack, or destroy the functioning of the right side of the human mind. In short, a demon is anything that works against God, the Ubuntu side within you. Anything that deliberately severs your connection to the Holy of Holies, anything that systematically attacks your right hemisphere to shut down the frequency of Ubuntu, is a functional demon. Our popular culture has been trying to warn us about this warfare for decades. Think about the classic trope we have all seen in countless childhood cartoons. A character is faced with a difficult choice, and suddenly, a tiny angel appears on their right shoulder, while a tiny demon appears on their left shoulder. Both are whispering competing ideas directly into the character's ears. This is not a childish fairy tale. It is an incredibly accurate esoteric blueprint of our daily reality. These external and internal forces do not possess you by force. They operate through the art of the whisper. They implant thoughts, cravings, and voices into your mental field, carefully mimicking your own internal monologue, waiting for you to accept their low-vibrational suggestions as your own. They whisper to gain your consent, because once you accept the whisper, you willingly surrender the keys to your biological temple. The first and most immediate layer of this demonic architecture is one we have already touched upon: your own unredeemed left hemisphere. The raw, survival-driven biology of the primal hominid acts as an organic internal demon when it is left entirely untamed. It is hardwired for fear, aggression, territorial hoarding, and absolute separation. It stands at your left shoulder, constantly whispering thoughts of paranoia, greed, and division into your consciousness. It tells you to fear your neighbor, to hoard resources at the expense of others, and to view the world as a hostile battleground where only the most ruthless survive. Before we peel back the layers of external manipulation, we must look closer at this first, internal layer of the demonic, the unredeemed animal engine within. This primal, survival-driven mechanism is the direct source of almost every action that modern theology defines as sin. When you strip away the religious guilt and examine the natural world, you find a striking reality. Every animal in the wild steals, kills, and forces mating through raw savagery. To an undomesticated animal, these are not sins. They are essential survival protocols designed to ensure that its specific genetic lineage endures in a brutal world. The ape within us does not understand morality. It understands only dominance and reproduction. This biological reality is the precise reason the cosmic creators instituted the law of the tithe. The Elohim understood that as long as your consciousness is tethered to a physical, biological body, these animalistic drives will always be a functional part of your earthly nature. You cannot entirely destroy the beast without destroying the physical vessel itself. Therefore, the Creator only asks for 10% of your mental real estate, the sacred right brain sanctuary, to remain permanently anchored in the divine frequency of Ubuntu. By dedicating that 10% to higher consciousness, you keep the channel to the gods open, allowing that divine light to tame, manage, and hold the remaining 90% of your animal biology in check. However, the divine creators drew a hard, unyielding line between natural biological impulses and total surrender to savagery. The Elohim coded our reality so that acts of outright savagery, like murder, theft, and rape, are treated as severe, unforgivable violations of the cosmic order. These actions do not just satisfy a temporary biological urge. They completely destroy the collective matrix of Ubuntu. They tear apart the fabric of human interconnectedness, which is why these specific acts trigger immediate, catastrophic consequences under both spiritual law and our modern human judicial systems, leading to your physical and energetic imprisonment. In contrast, our creators recognized that secondary impulses like lust and adultery are deeply hardwired into the baseline reproductive software of the primal hominid. The biological ape is relentlessly driven to pass on its genes to as many partners as possible to guarantee the survival of the species. These impulses will always call out to you from the depths of your DNA. The goal of ultimate enlightenment is not to pretend these primal desires do not exist, to ensure they do not take total control of your temple. When you fail to give the divine its 10% tithe of awareness, these basic biological drives are immediately weaponized by the left hemisphere, transforming from natural reproductive urges into a destructive, obsessive force that completely desecrates your inner temple. But this internal animal engine is merely the baseline entry point. It is the biological vulnerability that a vast array of external, predatory forces use to hack into your reality. When we look deeper into the material matrix, we find the second layer of the demonic, biological parasites and manipulative microorganisms. Modern science is only now beginning to uncover what ancient mystics always understood, that your physical gut health and your cellular biology directly dictate your thoughts and behaviors. There are specific physical parasites, fungi, and microorganisms that can infect the human body and literally hijack the host's nervous system. These biological entities do not want you to achieve higher consciousness or activate your pineal gland. They thrive entirely on low-frequency decay. To survive, they require heavy sugars, toxic processed chemicals, and acidic bodily environments. Therefore, they project biochemical signals into your vagus nerve, planting intense, uncontrollable cravings directly into your brain. When you suddenly feel an overwhelming, irrational urge to consume toxins or indulge in self-destructive physical behavior, you are not experiencing your own free will. You are experiencing a biological demon hacking your organic machinery, whispering cravings into your mind to turn your body into a breeding ground for their low-vibrational survival. Moving past the biological, we encounter the third, highly organized layer of the demonic. Advanced radio brain manipulation and covert mind control technologies deployed by the secret government matrix. We live in an absolute ocean of invisible electromagnetic frequencies. The shadowy architects of this world utilize highly advanced scalar wave technology, cell towers, and satellite arrays to broadcast specific, low-vibrational brainwave frequencies directly into dense population centers. These technological weapons are tuned precisely to disrupt the peaceful, holistic alpha and theta waves of your right hemisphere. They flood the atmosphere with chaotic, high-beta frequencies designed to lock the masses into a permanent state of survival, anxiety, and left-brain panic. They whisper to entire nations simultaneously through the airwaves, triggering artificial anger, mass division, and collective hysteria. This synthetic frequency manipulation is a highly sophisticated artificial demon designed to keep the human race trapped inside the lower three chakras of the biological matrix. Why would the government do this to its own people? I'd rather leave that for another series, but the bottom line is, this is no conspiracy theory, it's a recorded fact. Finally, we must confront the most ancient, non-physical layer of this spectrum. Advanced, multidimensional entities and cosmic predators that exist just beyond the visible light spectrum. These are the beings traditionally referred to as spirits, archons, or disembodied demons. These entities do not possess physical flesh, but they possess highly advanced, predatory consciousness. From their hidden vantage points in alternative dimensions, they project their awareness directly into our dense physical layer, intentionally interfering with human brain waves. They locate individuals whose spiritual defenses are low, whose temples are unredeemed, and they begin their quiet, systematic psychic infiltration. They whisper thoughts of deep despair, unprovoked malice, sexual perversion, and absolute worthlessness into the human mind. They do this because they are energy vampires. They cannot generate their own cosmic life force. They feed exclusively on the heavy, chaotic emotional radiation, the loosed energy, emitted by a human being who is trapped in fear, anger, or suffering. They whisper to gain control of your mind so they can use your physical body as a factory to harvest the emotional energy they need to survive. Every single one of these demonic forces, from the internal savage left brain to the physical parasites, government frequency weapons, and interdimensional entities, is ultimately fighting a war for the fate of your eternity. They do not merely want to disrupt your peace in this temporary physical existence. They are systematically positioning your soul for what happens next in the grand ledger of the afterlife matrix. As we established in our very first episode, the true resurrection of the dead is a reclamation of your divine frequencies while you are still walking this earth. The choices you make right now determine your vibrational density. When you consistently surrender your temple to these predatory forces, when you completely default on your 10% spiritual tithe, you do not just make your life difficult on earth, you are actively altering your spiritual gravity. You are building the specific energetic highway your soul will be forced to travel once the silver cord of your physical body is permanently severed. This brings us to the profound, unsettling reality of what it truly means to sell your soul. Selling your soul is not a dramatic, contract-signing ritual with a theatrical creature under the cover of night. It is a slow, daily, systematic process of biological and spiritual suicide. It happens every time you allow the whispers of the left hemisphere to completely consume you. It happens when you allow physical parasites to dictate your actions, and when you allow external frequency weapons to dictate your emotions. When a human being completely snuffs out the 10% right brain sanctuary of Ubuntu, they have officially sold their soul. They have diminished the divine spark of the Elohim down to absolute zero, transforming themselves into an empty, unredeemed animal container. In our next episode of this Afterlife series, we are going to dive directly into the deep, dark heart of this terrifying reality. We will step past the metaphorical veil to expose the mechanics of the ancient underworld, or hell, according to the Bible. We will strip away the fairy tales of literal sulfur and burning pitchforks to reveal a far more staggering truth. The underworld is not a geographical place under the earth, but the absolute lowest state of unredeemed human consciousness. We will demonstrate how this dense, low-frequency swamp becomes the absolute best, most perfect dwelling place for demons. We will show you exactly how a soul that has completely extinguished its Ubuntu becomes permanently trapped inside this low-vibrational matrix, transformed into food and currency for the multidimensional predators of the cosmos. The war for your mind is a war for your eternity. Safeguard your temple, activate your pineal gland, pay the 10% tithe to your higher self, and remember the ancient code of Ubuntu. Thank you for watching this second episode of the Afterlife series on Ultimate Enlightenment. Do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all post notifications so you do not miss our next explosive breakdown where we open the gates of the underworld itself. Stay sovereign, stay conscious, and remember that you are the temple of the living God. Until next time.